What's up, guys? This is Professor Rob, Coach Steph for episode number 2 of Team Osiris podcast. So today is the December 29th, so we're almost at the end of the year, so we wanted to do another podcast. Yeah, 3 days left to the end of 2022. Yeah, so we want to do a podcast trying to recap, talk a little bit about what we've done this year, what we've had going on, and then also getting into next year, some goals of our own, and then also talk about setting goals as jiu-jitsu athletes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so the end of the year, I'm a big believer in the end of the year. You should really celebrate your wins, right? So it's a good time to look back at what did I accomplish this year? You know, what kind of goals did I have for myself? Which ones did I achieve? But also if I fell short somewhere, if I didn't do something that I wanted to do, you know, what is the reason why? A lot of the reason that people don't accomplish their goals is just because they didn't have a definite action plan. So I like to sit down at the end of the year. I like to kind of celebrate anything that I've accomplished, you know, and I also like to look forward to the next year and plan what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna accomplish. It's just a good way to kind of ground yourself and really be grateful for all of the opportunities that you had throughout the year, but also to push and, you know, kind of be driven and dedicated towards those dreams that you have for next year.
Yeah, it's funny, as you're saying that, I think about kind of two goals. One goal for us I know to get to 100 members this year, which we didn't reach to, but we got close at times, and I feel like this was our first official year, right? So it was definitely still a lot of learning process, and we're still learning because we're 14, 15 months in?
Yeah.
A year, less than a year and a half. So we have I feel a better plan of action for growing, building the team. So I feel that definitely, of course, I'm always hard on myself, so it's hard for me to find wins and always celebrate those wins. But I think about that was definitely a goal, you know, we set last January that we didn't reach, which, you know, it is what it is, but I think we have a better plan of action this year to get there. And then I think about a personal goal. I did want to start competing at the year 1 mark of the school. However, not those goals are kind of correlated for me, at least, because I felt not getting to that 100 count member where I felt more comfortable with the growth of the school and financially. So that's something I would like to set for next year. Cause I'd be honest, I don't want to take 2 years off competing. Mm-hmm. That's a long time. I don't think since I started competing as a blue belt, I don't think I've taken that long off, or maybe not even a year off, right? However, yeah, I would definitely like to start competing again next year. I don't want to keep putting it off just because the school is not where I want it to be personally. But that's one goal I can think for myself, definitely getting into competition. I don't know when it'll be, but I definitely think that's something for myself I want to set, along with, you know, still getting to that number of 100 members.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things is for us, because it has been our first year open, is there's been a lot of learning curve. You know, just obviously we kind of put off opening a school because we knew how labor intensive it was, and it did not disappoint, that is for sure. I will say I've felt more exhausted this year than I ever have. And I've owned businesses before, as have you. But it's I think when it is something that you're so passionate about, the success is you want it to succeed so much more, because it's your life, it's your passion. I mean, I know that we've poured a lot into the school this year, and I'm excited about 2023. I do feel we put in some systems in place that are really going to help, and honestly, just also the feedback from people online and social media, not the trolls, but the positive comments. We do get a lot of positive comments about, you know, techniques, or how people enjoy what they're learning, or that we're teaching them something new. And as a coach, I mean, I know you as a professor, that's kind of the whole thing. If we can teach somebody something new, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you do it for, right? For the positive feedback of, oh, I did this technique and it worked and it helped me. Yeah, I mean, those are invaluable, right? Those positive comments and that reinforcement, because there's some times where you know, you're working like crazy and you're going, and you sometimes don't stop to think, or you stop and think like, man, am I really making a difference? Am I really changing people's lives, or changing their technique or bettering their jiu-jitsu? And it's easy for me to do that because I'm very, like I said, very hard on myself, and I also like you said, like it is like a very big passion. So also, like for me, put a lot of pressure on myself to like make sure I do things right, and with so many different balls to juggle with owning the school, and you know, just for myself, like I coached for a long time, and just coaching is easy, honestly. Not easy, but it's much easier, right? Because you're just focusing on the curriculum for the classes.
Just
show up.
leave,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, aside from like doing some, you know, somewhat marketing and pushing the class and pushing the school you're teaching at, and the classes and things like that. I mean, really, I mean, those days I look back and I'm like, man, that was so much different, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're still pressure of like having to like teach good techniques, always having something to bring to class, and you know, leading your students in the right way. However, like for me, like this year, like man, there was so much more pressure with like trying to juggle all those different balls while, you know, while still maintaining that position as a coach and as a leader and as an instructor. I remember there was probably about a month ago, one of my black belt friends came in to train, and he was telling me his first time he'd come to school and first time he had seen me in a while, and I was just, he was like, oh, you know, well, how's everything going? I was like, oh, it's going good. But he was like, I gotta do this, and I gotta do this and this. He's like, man, I can see the stress on your face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna say that I'm not stressed. However, I feel like this last month or so I found better ways to manage it. But it is a lot. But it is one of those things. It's like I also stop and think like, no one forced you to do this. You chose to this path, right? No one's making you do all these things, right? It's kind of by choice, and also a privilege too, like to be able to have your own school, to be able to make a living teaching jiu-jitsu is a privilege. And sometimes, you know, you can lose sight of that when you know, you get tired, you get burnt out, or you know, you just you know, maybe have like wake up with a bad attitude, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I would check myself, even like going to do private. Sometimes I would like, man, I'm so tired, I don't want to do this private, or like, you know, I just like want to rest. And then I think about, man, this person's paying me personally because they like me, they enjoy what I teach, they have a good time in the sessions, and they see value in it. So I try to remind myself, like, no, you're lucky to have this opportunity, and it's not something like I have to do, or I have to show up at an office from a 9 to 5. Like, no, you get to do this, and you get to you know, teach these people, and these people, not only that, but these people want to learn from you. All right, so that like, to me, that reminds me, like, oh, like this is a privilege, and this is something that you should be grateful to have.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, it's one of those things where if you never stop and look at, you know, why you're grateful, you know, for the opportunities that you have, it's really easy to kind of take those things for granted. I know for me, I've always been very achievement focused. So even in school, you know, it was about getting good grades. Even in college, it was just about getting the degrees. You know, and everything I've ever done, it was like, okay, I did that, now what's next? And what I had to learn as I got older was, if you keep doing that, you're always going to be looking for something bigger and bigger and bigger. You have to stop and say, it's not so much about the achievement. Let me stop and think about all of the lives that I've impacted through what I have accomplished. That is, for me, I know that's like, gives my life purpose, and it gives my life meaning, and it makes those hard days even easier, because it's, you know, and the way that the universe works is it's kind of strange, because on the worst day, when you're feeling so run down and you're feeling like, I'm just not getting through to people, or I'm failing at this, like, you'll have like a student or a person reach out to you and say, man, what you're doing like has changed my life. And it's almost like the universe is telling you, you're in the right spot. I know you're tired, I know you're burnt out, but keep going. And those moments are so meaningful.
Yeah, it's funny. Like sometimes, you know, and I think we were talking about this the other week between the two of us, just about like being an instructor, being a coach, and sometimes not feeling like you're making a difference, or just feeling like you're having less pressure on yourself, and you're not how would you say, like you're not able to continue to like keep doing it, and feel like your mental health is good too, right? Which is
Right.
important, right? But sometimes it's like when those people reach out to you and you're on that hard days, and when you're feeling down on yourself, or you're feeling run down, it's like, man, those people might not know, but it's like, man, you really saved me that day.
Yeah.
You really helped me that day, because I was feeling down, I was feeling exhausted or burnt out, and so it's like sometimes just those little bitty nuggets, right, of people messaging you or commenting, or even in person. Sometimes, like I said, people don't realize like how much that means to that person, because it's like it's like you never know what someone's going through, or where their mental state is at. So it can, as an as an instructor, to me it's like, man, that helps a lot, because it's just something simple, right? Something small,
Yep.
small little comment, small little gesture, but again, it can mean the world to that person, especially if they're struggling that day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be accumulation,
Be
over
everything.
time. But yeah, that definitely makes a difference. And yeah, gratitude. I know it's like a cliche thing, like people say, like have more gratitude, be grateful, but it's something that we often lose sight of, because of the day in day out of the quote unquote rat race, and just constantly going. And as I'm sure if any of you are business owners, the same. Like this, it's a constant grind. There's always work to do. There's always something to do, right? It's just go 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 go. So you rarely take time to step back and have gratitude. And I think the holidays are a good time to do that, because for most people, I would say for us too, it's like it's a slower time. You have time off, because you actually have time. You have time to sit down and think and be grateful, and not just like think about, all right, the next thing I got to do, the next thing, the next appointment, the next session, the next class. So I think it's a good time. It can be often scary for people in the fitness industry,
Yeah.
because it's slow. You're losing clients, you're losing members. However, you can also like take a step back and like, man, I did X, Y, Z this year. I impacted so many people's lives, and I even though it may not feel like I got further, I did, because of the work I put in each and every day, even when I didn't feel like doing that work.
Yep. I'm reminded of, one of the things, I've been coaching kids for quite some time, so I often forget about, this when it happens for the first time. But one of our newer, like, assistant coaches, Fernando, he showed a kid how to do something, and they executed it, like, immediately. And he was so excited, because he was like, wow, I showed them something, and they actually did it in, like, a sparring round. And it reminded me, like, how good that feels, like, with adults and kids, like, to show someone something and then them able to like implement it immediately it's such a validation as a coach or an instructor, that you're like, wow, I am actually doing something.
Yeah, it gives you that the confidence, but also like the ability to like continue to keep like pushing each day, and keep progressing, and keep like trying to improve upon not just your students, but also your teaching, right? And it's like, if you're a coach, and I think you don't like take inventory of like things you're teaching or class you teach, because like it's not like, not every class is gonna be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Not every class you're not gonna be able to translate the techniques the way you wanted to translate them. And so you have to take inventory and be like, all right, what did I do well? What did I do wrong? Or maybe I taught the techniques well, but maybe my students weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
So I think as a coach or an instructor, you have to like take inventory of that, and be mindful of that. But on the other hand, when people do tell you like, well, that worked, or you see it firsthand and it works, and it's like, all right, it gives you kind of like that boost of confidence, or it gives you that reassurance, like, okay, I am doing the right things. am pushing them into the right direction, and it like I said, it's just again back to those like little wins, but those are big.
Yeah, it's celebrating your wins is really important, and it's something that doesn't come naturally to people that are kind of so hard on themselves or really self-critical, but it is important. I think about with us, them telling us like hang your medals, and we're like, what? That's kind of weird, but when we hung our medals, like all of the medals that we've won through competing, it immediately kind of changed like the atmosphere. Like when people walked in, I know for the kids, they're like, whose medals are these? And when you tell them like, oh, they're mine, I won them competing, they were like, they're amazed. Like, even the adults, they're like, y'all won all these medals. And for us, it's something that, I know you had them in a shoebox in the closet, just kind of
grocery bag.
Yeah, just like shoved away. But it is kind of like, yeah, wow, look at all that we've accomplished, and celebrating those wins is it's a really important part of growth. And I think that is the part that a lot of people miss, because we want to grow, we want to do better, we want to be better, but we forget being self-critical is not the biggest indicator to growth. It's also being able to stop and say, what have I done well? What have I accomplished? And that kind of boosts your self-esteem and boosts your self-confidence, and it helps push you towards more wins.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I'm already self-critical naturally. So I think another thing too is like, also and I think this can go for any industry, when you've done something so long that all you do is surround yourself with other people that do the same things, and a lot of times they're very driven, motivated by success, whether that be competition, business, what have you. It's easy to lose sight of that, because I'm like, like some of the people I train with or I interact with on a daily basis, you can often comparison, like they can compare yourself to them, like what they say that the saying is, comparison is a thief of joy, right? So and that you can get caught up in that too. It's easy because we train with people that been doing jiu-jitsu for 20 plus years, or world champions, or even other instructors or gym owners that have schools. I'm like, man, they have such a nice school, they have such a good program. I'm like, oh, they've been doing this 10 years. Like, why? Don't compare yourself. Like, yeah, you can, I think, look in admiration, you can learn a lot of things, you can take from that, but it's easy to see like someone doing something in the same general area you're doing it, and doing it maybe better, or just doing a bigger scale, and it's easy to look and say like, well, I'm not doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So what I did is not significant, and that's easy for me to do, because it's like, I'm again surrounded by most of my friends do jiu-jitsu. Most of the people I know do jiu-jitsu, or they own a school, or they instruct, or they compete pretty often. So it's easy to tell, like, compare yourself to those other people, and it's like, well, I'm not doing as good as they're doing, so what I did is not sufficient or significant. So
Right.
it's I think for me it's easy to do that, because that's my circle, that's who I associate with.
Right. And I mean, you always want to associate with people that are, doing better than you, or people that push you. But it's definitely one of those things that if you just compare yourself constantly, it's not going to be good. Like, you're always going to feel worse about yourself, basically. So I think that's when, knowing that there's time to stop, time to smell the roses, as people say, and look at all the things that you've been able to accomplish. Sometimes I tell people, things that I've been through in my life, or, things that I've done, and they're like, I can't believe you've done all that. And for me, it's just like, oh, that's just, this is who I am. But when you learn that it actually inspires other people, that's kind of where you get that juice from to keep doing it. Because, like, I know everybody has their own story, and everybody has their reasons why they can't do something, right? Or reasons that are holding them back. And when you can tell someone, I've accomplished this despite that, it gives them hope that they could do it as well.
Yeah, I agree, and it's easy to get caught up, or not caught up, but like so accustomed to like doing these difficult what most people would say difficult things, training, teaching, doing the hard things day in, day out, that again, it just becomes your life, it just becomes accustomed to it. And then you sit back and tell somebody like, oh, I did XYZ, and they're like, oh, wow, you did that? Like, it's so impressive. I'm like, nah, this is what I do. But again, you get so ingrained and so accustomed to that type of environment, and your accomplishments and things you've been through and things you've done and things you still do on a daily basis, that would most likely be impressive to 9 out of 10 people, but to yourself, like, again, just speaking from my perspective, it's just like, man, this is what I do.
Yeah.
It's just that's not a big deal. It's just what you do on a daily basis. It's what I've been doing, So it's just like, it just becomes like white noise in a sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of it also is kind of like self-deprecating. Like, we're trying to say, oh, I'm not that impressive, or I wasn't, I'm not that hardworking, or I'm not that dedicated, because it really was nothing. So I think a little bit of that's probably more self-deprecating.
Yeah, that definitely could be it too. It can definitely be self-deprecating. However, it's just too, but like, I think like humans are so adaptable that like, once you start doing all those difficult things on a consistent basis, not saying it's not still difficult, but you become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Become accustomed to waking up early every day, working all the time, doing the hard trainings, getting the lack of sleep, getting, just having all these priorities and different things that you just become accustomed to, and it's just like, man, it's what I have to do, or it's what I do, and it just, again, you adapt.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, and that's one of the messages that that I want to send, is not like, hey, this is, you have to like never get sleep, you have to work yourself to to the bone, like can't have any fun, or have good relationships. It's a means to an end, right? So yes, you're maybe sleeping less than 8 hours a night, you're maybe working constantly, you're always like doing stuff, but there's an end goal, right? It's not, I don't want to live my life like this forever. I want to work really, really hard for a couple of years so that I have something that's sustained growth, and that I can actually like enjoy doing. So and that's kind of like one of the things too, like we work really hard, but we know the harder we work on the front end, the more established it's going to be going into like year 3 and year 5.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's similar to jiu-jitsu in the sense that like running a business, or even like getting a, let's say like doctorates or a PhD or something like that, it's a long game, right? And I think society, and today, like, people don't want to play the long game. Like, look at social media just as an example, right? You have kids getting rich off of TikTok and YouTube and all these different platforms, and which is cool that you have that availability or likelihood of doing that. However, I feel like it's people don't want to invest into the long term, right? Whether it be, like I said, running a business, whether it be getting your black belt in jiu-jitsu, whether it be getting high level education, right? Yeah. So all those things, you have to put in the work. It's not just going to be for a short amount of time. It's going to be for maybe a few years, or maybe even 7-8 years. But then you get that doctorates, and then you have that degree for the the rest of your life, and you're able to run a practice and then create a good living for yourself.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those things too, like even when it comes to like social media and like content, I always tell people, when they're like, oh wow, this person makes this much on YouTube, or they have this many followers on TikTok, if you really like get down to like the nitty gritty of it, you'll see this person got there because of consistency, right? Maybe they had one video that like went viral, but it's because they were constantly posting things. They probably took 10 L's to that one win. And so for us, I think what's made the biggest change and difference for us this year was, we actually hired a professional. We started working with Jay, we started working with NSC, and we just made our content like consistent. Like, so once a week, whether we wanted to be here or not. I mean, there's 3 of us in this room that are doing the filming and the teaching, And there are a lot of weeks where, you know, one of us is moody, or the other one doesn't want to be here, or the other one doesn't feel good. So, but like clockwork, every week we show up, and we've fine-tuned it. We've gotten it to a place where it looks really good. I mean, I look at some of our old videos and I'm like, wow, we've come so far. But none of that would have been possible without consistency. I mean, when did we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube? Like
A little more than a month ago, probably late
like
November.
less than a month ago, and we're already at 2,000. And like, you know, in a couple weeks, like, who knows where we'll be. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, we don't want to do it. Like, yeah, we don't want to come up to the school when we don't have to be here and film, but we do it. And it's that consistency, it's that dedication, and it's actually paid off for us. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, definitely excited about the growth and love and the views on social media, and it all correlates. You know, it's consistency. I think also, again, with content is quality. You know, because I feel like there's so much content out there. It's like a lot of people often use the term like content overload. So having quality content is important too, and then also the consistency. Because like you said, like I was thinking about when you were talking about, you know, having to post so many times. You would say 10 L's to one win. I would say probably 1,000 L's, you know, to one win.
Sure.
But I was thinking about like Mr. Beast and listening to him on Joe Rogan Experience, and when he was saying that it, you know, he said like, oh, you know, people talk about the 10,000 hour rule, right? He's like, I probably put 100,000 hours in, right? And that was a lot of trial and error too, just learning, you know, what works on YouTube, what doesn't work. And again, you can take that with jiu-jitsu, you can take that with anything else, right? It all at the end of the day, it's all really similar. When you want to get really good at something or be successful at something, you have to fail just a lot, you know, there's just whatever it may be, right? But no one sees that, you know. And that's another thing too. It's like with social media or with jiu-jitsu or MMA, you see the person at the top of the mountain with the medal, with the championship. You don't see all the hard work, all the trial and error, all the heartaches, all the injuries, all the times that they failed, right? So, and often people don't care, you know, they don't care, they don't want to see it, they don't
care about any of that.
But it's how you get there. And the people that are honest about how they got there, they will tell you that I failed and I failed and I failed, and there was points where I wanted to give up, there's points where, you know, I just didn't think it was going to work. And then it got to a point that that turning point, you know, in a sense, where it started to work, or they started to win, or they started to become successful. And again, I think a lot of people just don't see that, or they don't think about that. They just see the you know, the person that won, the person that's successful, the person that you know got their PhD, that, you know, and they didn't see everything along the way, you know. And it's unfortunate. I think more people should like talk about that, you know, and be honest, and just and not just be like, oh, well, I'm the man, and I've always been the man, you know. Like, no, it took me a long time to get to where I want to be, and I mean, so it's like, it's one of those things. It's you have to be honest about like what it takes to get to where you want to be, and it's not going to be easy. And if people tell you, oh, it's easy to be a business owner, it's easy to get your PhD, or it's easy to get your black belt, and they're full of shit, right? Because it's not easy. But is it worth it? Yes, I would definitely say, like, just for me, like saying get my black belt, yes, very much worth it, right? I'm sure people that, you know, gotten their PhD, or like you have gotten multiple degrees, like, is it worth it? Yes. When you know, push comes to shove, at the end of the day, it's definitely worth all that hard work, sleepless nights, frustration, you know, failures.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where I remember when I first started, like, you know, coaching people, and I was coaching bodybuilders, and I had a large team, and I remember my mentality on it was, even though these people are my athletes, like, if I'm struggling or I'm suffering, like, I want to be honest with them, right? I never wanted people to feel like, you know, it was something that they did that made me, like, you know, have a bad day or suffer or like struggle. And I remember, like, some of the other coaches in the industry would say, don't let them see you struggle. Like, don't let them see you. Like, they're going to think you're weak. And I remember always thinking that was so inauthentic and not who I was, that I felt like being honest and true about all of the things that I had done and been through and still were able to accomplish goals, that I felt like that would make, inspire other people. And it drew more people to me versus running them away, because people saw a little bit of themselves in me, and they were like, wow, you've been through this, I've been through something similar, and you still made it happen, so I can still make it happen. And I think that now people value that authenticity so much more than, oh, I'm tough, I don't ever have bad days, I always win. Like, because when people promote themselves like that, they're just so far removed from the constant struggles that people go through on a daily basis.
No, 100% agreed. And I think especially nowadays with like social media, and there's so much transparency, that as soon as you fail, as soon as you lose, like there's people waiting to jump on top of you because you've brought this, or you've painted this facade, right? Of like, I never lose. I'm always doing well. I never have a bad day. I'm just great. Like to quote Ricky Bobby, I piss excellence, right?
Yeah.
So if you try to like portray that, and then again, as soon as you make a mistake, as soon as you stumble, like there's going to be hundreds of thousands or millions, depending how popular you are, people waiting to jump to kick you when you're down, in a sense, But and I agree with you, like it's better to be authentic and to relate. Like at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter what business you're doing or who you're coaching. At the end of the day, you're coaching people, right? Mm-hmm. And people want to connect with other people. And if you're like, what I was kind of thinking when you were saying it, it's like almost like a robot in a sense.
Yeah.
Like I'm a robot, I don't get tired, I don't get weak, I don't feel, then no one's gonna connect to you. No one wants to can't connect to you because you don't allow them to, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you don't connect with people and if you don't allow them to see that, like, oh, I have bad days too, or I have days where I'm tired, or I have days that I don't want to do these certain things, yet I'm still trying to do my best and still accomplish my goals and take care of my priorities. That again, I think does encourage them, and also makes them see like, oh, I can relate to my coach or my instructor because they had issues with XYZ and I had issues with XYZ, right? And then you may be able to relate to that person on a deeper level and have some type of connection with them that they never thought of before.
Yeah. And with that, like, I think one of the big things and the big topics for the next, week or so is going to be like 2023 goals. So what we want to talk about is a little bit about, how to approach your goals. I come from like a corporate world. They're really big on like SMART goals, and this is how you set goals, and this is how you action plan. But I think most people who have, never kind of come from that corporate world, they don't really know, like, how do I plan for next year? What kind of goals do I need? Where do I even start? I'm a big, like, I like to get poster boards and markers and like write, like, this is what I'm gonna do, this year and next year. And honestly, I've found some of my list from 5 years ago and 7 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I did everything on that list, and I may have never looked at that list again, but I even accomplished it even without looking at it. And I think when you write something down, it puts it in the front of your mind, and you're able to remember, like, oh, this is something that I want to accomplish. And as cheesy as it sounds, if you write it down, you're taking that dream and you're actually making it into, like, you're starting a plan. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, to be completely honest, I've never been good at writing down goals that much, or doing the New Year's I would say resolutions, but goals in a sense. However, I think it is important to write it down. Like, that's the first step. However, after that, there needs to be like a plan of action, right? And if there's no plan of action, then it's just
thought.
A thought, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you write it down, it's you took some action of writing
Yeah.
it down, right? However, it kind of like reminds me of some people with the New Year's goals or things they want to do in the New Year's is kind of like the secret, right? I'm gonna put a picture of a Lambo on my wall, and then I'm gonna get a Lambo.
Visualize
right?
it.
Yeah, but what's a plan of action?
Yeah.
How do I make enough money to afford the monthly payments on a Lamborghini, right?
Yeah.
But obviously that's a crazy goal. But so like if your goal is to train more, okay, like what's my plan of action? Like how am I gonna set my schedule to allow me to train more? Also thinking about like how am I going to set my schedule to allow me to train more, but still get time to rest, right? So that can be a simple goal, right? Another one would be like if you're on the cusp of getting the next belt. Let's say you're a 4-stripe blue belt, and next year you should be getting your purple belt, or maybe even a 3-stripe, right? Talking to your instructor and saying like, okay, I know I'm on the cusp of getting my blue belt, but again, just a little side note, just because you have 4 stripes in your blue belt doesn't mean your instructor has to give you a purple next year, right? They may hold you back. But that being said, if you go and talk to them and you feel like you're close because due to stripes or maybe amount of time you've had that belt, talk to the instructor and say, hey, I know I'm close to this, like what do I need to do to make that happen? Right, and they may say something is like back to the frequency of training, like, all right, you really have only been training like twice a week. I really need you to step it up to like 3, 4, and and then maybe they also give you things to work on your game. Maybe I really need you to work on your takedowns, or your stand up, or I really need to work on your guard passing, X, Y, Z, right? So, with those things, like talking to your instructor. Okay, all right, my instructor said I need to train more. Okay, now I need to map out in my schedule how do I train more, with like we said earlier, still having some sort of balance with relationships and work, and again, very important, resting, right? Don't wreck your body just to get to the next belt level, right? So I think things like that, having some sort of plan of action, how to get there. Like I'm gonna get my purple belt next year. All right, I need to train 3 times a year, 3 times a week, and I need to. Maybe my instructor wants me to compete again as a blue belt, so I need to map out competition. And I think that's another thing too is competing. People are like, oh, I want to compete more next year. Okay, what does more look like? I know it is a crazy goal, and I stopped trying to set this a few years ago. But my goal every year used to be to compete once a month, right? For most people, and I would say the average person, competitor, that's a lot. There's some competitors out there that's what they do full time, and they compete every weekend, every other weekend. I think those are kind of anomalies, and those are very usually top level guys and girls. However, that used to be one of my goals. There were probably 1 out of the 3 years that actually worked out, right? Because just due to injuries, time, job, etc. But yeah, that used to be one of my goals. And after 2 or 3 years of making it, I'm like, all right, let's be more realistic. Yeah. And I think one year we actually did it in 2019. We competed 12 times. I think it cut weight 10 times.
13. I think
it was 12.
Because there was 1 month we competed twice.
But I think 1 month we took off.
Yeah.
I think it was around about 12. Either way, like be realistic with your goals too, right? Obviously, you want to set goals that are difficult, right? But not unachievable. So set goals that are something that's not going to be like, oh, I can just mark that. It's something that I can just check off because it's easy, right? But make something that's difficult but achievable. Be realistic with yourself.
Yeah, that was also the year I was more injured than any other year. I'm gonna take it back and I'm gonna go even broader, right? So when you're setting goals for the next year, you need to first think about your categories, right? What are the areas of my life where I want to achieve something? So maybe you have a physical goal. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably do jiu-jitsu. If you're not, if you don't, then you should. But maybe your physical goal is jiu-jitsu, belt, competition, or maybe just getting in better shape, going down a weight class. Those are some of your physical goals. Think about your relationship goals. Do I have a good relationship with my family, or am I single and looking for somebody to spend my life with? Write those things down. Everybody needs a relationship goal. Or maybe you have kids and you want to just have a better relationship with your kids. There's also your financial goal, and that could tie into your work goals, or maybe starting a business or doing a side hustle. There's so many different ways that you could improve your financial situation. investing, saving, anything like that. So you want to think about your categories. Most people, they kind of come up with like a couple different categories: physical goal, emotional goal, you know, uh, financial goal, and then a growth goal. What are you doing to become a better version of yourself? And that's kind of self-encompassing all of anything self-help. Maybe I need to go to therapy, or maybe I need to work on my mindset, because when things go wrong, I just get so flustered, I can't clearly think of a solution. And so break down those categories first. Once you do those categories, you're always going to think about your long-term goal and your short-term goal, right? Long-term goals are something you want to accomplish in a year, 3 years, 5 years. When you look at those, they should kind of scare you. They should be very lofty goals. They should be something when you're like, wow, if I accomplish that, it's gonna really make a huge difference on my life and the people around me. But then you take that big goal and you break it down into something smaller. This is how you're creating your action plan. If I have a year goal, what can I do within the next 6 months to get me closer? Then break it down, what can I do in the next 3 months? And then break it down even further to a weekly or a monthly goal. What can I accomplish every month that's gonna slowly get me closer to that big goal? Once you can kind of divide things into that category, you can really look at your life and figure out what's important and what I really need to focus on for 2023.
No, I think it's a great way to break it down. A great point. I think about like working with nutrition clients who are both certified nutrition coaches, and like when you have a client come to you and they say, I want to lose 50 pounds. 50 pounds sounds so daunting, and it's a lot of weight at the end of the day, right? But we would often take them and, all right, well, what's our bi-weekly goal? What's our monthly goal? And then, the 6 months down the road, the 50 pounds is there, right? But we don't want to so much concern about those 50 pounds. Like this first month, we're trying to lose 10, maybe the next month, another 5 or what have you. So yeah, I think that's huge, because it's like, if you set lofty goals, which I think you should, is can be scary or daunting, and it can just be like, well, I want to get to XYZ, but that's just too far away, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to get there? This doesn't even make sense. But if you break it down by quarters or by months or by weeks, especially when you get to the weeks and you're like, okay, that 1 to 2 pounds a week, or that making that extra couple $100 a week, or that putting in those extra training sessions each week, it's more realistic, right? And so yeah, I think just in anything you want to set as far as those goals, just breaking it down into like a more smaller, finite number, it mentally just is so much easier than, like I said, just using the weight loss goal of like, again, instead of 50 pounds, it's like, all right, I gotta lose 10 pounds the first month. Okay, that's doable. All right. Or my weekly goal is to lose at least a minimum 1 pound, and
Right.
so it's like, okay, cool, I just have to lose 1 pound per week, and obviously other weeks I'm going to do better than that, but that's my minimum goal. That's very doable.
Right. And then you have to remember too, when you set goals, know that you are going to struggle, because if you don't struggle, you didn't set your goal high enough. You're going to have obstacles, right? We all have obstacles. Life happens. I tell my fitness clients this all the time. Life is going to happen. You're going to get sick. You may lose a job. Something's going to happen. And you have to know and expect that something is going to come at you and throw you for a loop, and you're going to have to reassess. So obstacles, they should not upend your goal and say, you know what, this is too hard. I knew I couldn't do it. It's gone. Use it as a learning experience and take all of those failures, all of those losses, and say, okay, what can I learn from it? And then keep going, because that's really important. If you don't keep going, you're never going to accomplish anything in life.
No, I agree. It's funny, like you say that, like, I mean, unless you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or you're just born into extreme wealth, like, I don't know anybody who hasn't run into some sort of obstacle in every aspect of life, and education, and their job, and their relationships, and it's just like, again, everyone runs into obstacles in all aspects of life. So just because you set a new goal outside of what you're used to, whether it be fitness, maybe finance, or like I said, jiu-jitsu, you're still going to run obstacles. It's still like anything else in life. You're still going to, have to overcome those obstacles. And it's not like you haven't overcome obstacles in other areas of your life.
Yeah.
It's just different, right? Instead of, area A that you used to, now you're running into obstacles in area B, right? There may be different obstacles that you have to find different ways to overcome, but it's still, at the end of the day, you have that resilience, right? Because you've accomplished other things in your life. You've done, other things outside of these new goals. So it's just taking that same mentality and that same perseverance and consistency, like we said before, and implementing that into those new goals. Because like I said, it's, even though they're different goals, you're gonna run into similar obstacles.
Right. One of the things that, and you may have heard this in every like sports arena or every, anything self like help, where people talk about, it's the process. Learn to love the journey, the process, and that is really an indicator of whether you're gonna accomplish a goal or not. Right? It's not about how quickly can I do this. It's about what can I learn from point A to point B about myself and allow it to help me become a better person, right? Or allow it to help me grow in different ways. And I see that a lot with, like jujitsu, especially, where if somebody comes in and they're like, I'm gonna be the best, I'm gonna be the best in the world, like, but they don't have a plan, they don't love the process, they don't love the warm-ups and the training and the actual hard stuff, they're not going to accomplish that big goal, right? But we see people that come in here who they thoroughly enjoy the process. Yeah, the classes are hard, but they like that. They keep showing up. Yeah, they struggle. Yeah, they may be completely like exhausted and dead at the end of class, but they're here the next day. Yeah, they have a lot of things going on in their life. They have relationships and kids and school and all kinds of various things that happen in their life, but they're here. And maybe some weeks they're here 3 times a week, maybe some weeks they're only here once a week, but they keep showing up consistently. And I can tell you from my experience, those are going to be the ones that accomplish those big goals, not the ones that say, oh, this happened, so I'm just gonna quit because it's too hard, because I give up. It's one of those things where you can't always give up on things that you really want to do, because the more you give up, the easier it becomes to give up. And that's one of the things that I see time and time again.
Yeah, you become accustomed to that failure, and it seems like it's just part of your life. And I think too, like the people that don't enjoy the hard stuff, I mean, not even necessarily have to enjoy it, but are willing to embrace it. I would say, like I know, wrestlers often use the phrase "embrace the grind," right? So even if you don't necessarily enjoy it, like at the end of the workout, you're like, man, it sucked, but I did it. I pushed myself through it, right? So you don't necessarily have to enjoy it, or you maybe back to wrestling. Sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like
I have a very hate-hate relationship.
Like I love learning it, and I enjoy it, and it's fun. But beforehand, I'm like, man, this is gonna suck, right? This is gonna be rough. So it's one of those things, like you have to learn how to push yourself through those difficult times, and learn how to find some sort of enjoyment or pleasure out of that those hard times, right? And I think those people that don't find that, or don't see a way that they can enjoy some part of the process, whether even it can be at the very end, like I just enjoy this end part where I'm dead tired and I'm done, right? Then they're not going to stick around, right? And then you also have, like, a little off topic, but like people that have a lot of talent, but that's only going to take you to a certain ceiling, right? You're only going to get so far with that, and they don't learn to enjoy that hard work, enjoy the process, because they got good fairly quickly, but that's only going to take them, good's only going to go so far, right?
Yeah.
Talent's only going to take you so far, whereas that consistency and hard work is going to take you further. So it's like, I think there's sometimes where people do have, getting back to jiu-jitsu, just like athletic ability, talent, and then that takes them to a certain point, but again, they often get bored, or they often don't want to push themselves further than that because there's things they're going to have to do that take them outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a personal story of mine on, you know, why that kind of was me. You know, when I was growing up and I was younger, I was really smart. Like, I'm a really smart person, and so when I was in school was easy for me. You know, I love to read, I love to learn. I didn't really have to study as much. You know, I got straight A's, like, and I carried that through school. I never did anything physical. I was never an athlete. I never played sports. You know, everything I did competition wise was, you know, scholastic. It was all like academic stuff. So then when I, you know, when I became, you know, 19, 20 years old and I was overweight and I decided, hey, I want to do bodybuilding. Like, the physical thing was so hard for me, and it was something that did not come naturally for me. And when you're a smart person, and I know there's probably smart people that are watching this that can relate, you try to outthink everything, right? I'm smart. I can figure out how to, you know, kind of like cheat and like shortcut and not do the work because I'm smart. I can I can figure this out. And what I learned when it came to like the physical component of doing something was, and it took me years to learn, but you can't outsmart it. You know, you have to just do the work. And yeah, the work, it's gonna suck. Yeah, it's gonna, you know, you're gonna have to force yourself to do it sometimes. But if you put in that work and that dedication to it and that consistency to it, it'll happen. And it's just like day after day after day of doing something, it pays off in the end. And, you know, now, you know, it's been, you know, what, I don't know, 20 years since I've been doing physical things, where now I actually look forward to that. Like, I look forward to those things that are gonna suck because I know that they're gonna make me feel good at the end and they're gonna make me better. With wrestling, like, I get physically like knots in my stomach when I'm on my way. Like, I want to throw up every single time, but I still do it because it's hard and I need that. I need that in my life. Like, I need to do those hard things so that I can continue to grow as a person. And so maybe there's some of you out there that are like, you know, I want to learn jiu-jitsu or I want to learn martial arts, but, you know, I'm not athletic. I've never worked out like a day in my life. That's great. You know, you're not going to come in here with any like pre-existing like, oh, I know I'm going to be good at this or I know I'm going to be good at that. You're just a sponge and you just soak it up and you can learn. And, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of like smart nerds that come and do jiu-jitsu and they're like, wow, this is a great physical activity for somebody that's smart because there's so many pieces and there's so many like nuances and there's so many things that it's like human chess. And so it really is kind of one of those martial arts that like anybody can do it, from your athlete to your soccer mom to your like, you know, nerd. But it's just like, it's one of those things you got to show up and you got to like do it and you got to keep trying, you know, no matter what.
Yeah, I would even go as far as say those quote unquote nerds are honestly gonna learn the technique and do it the quote unquote right way and not rely on their athleticism, strength, even flexibility, things like that. So they're gonna have to learn it the right way because they don't have those things, because they don't have the ability to just muscle through or just speed somebody or you know, use their athleticism, right? So it's one of those things that they're gonna have to learn to do it the right way, and in the end, or in the long run, that's gonna pay off big dividends because, you know, there's you know, the strength and the speed and athleticism it's only gonna get you so far in jiu-jitsu, and I would say most other sports too, but especially jiu-jitsu when you have, like you said, so much nuance, detail with the techniques.
Yeah, it's jiu-jitsu is kind of one of those things where it's kind of fills both buckets, like you're athletic but you're also like mental, like challenges, mental like games. It really is kind of like an all-encompassing you know, type of activity, and I think that's why so many people are drawn to it. I know for me as a smaller person, you know, even though I may not look smaller on the camera, but like as a smaller person, jiu-jitsu was always very intimidating for me, especially because I started in a time when there just weren't a lot of women. So, you know, I've been at lots of schools where I was the only female on the mat, you know, but I've also been lucky and been at some schools where there's tons of females on the mat. And so it can be scary, it can be intimidating, but learning that even though you're a smaller frame person, there's still things you can do and learn, and there's still ways that you can control an opponent. Those are incredible. Like, they're just incredible. Like, they make you feel like just so good about what you're learning. You're like, wow, this is something that a big person can use. This is something that a small person that can use. This is something that a child can use. And so it's just like, it makes you feel really good about learning jiu-jitsu.
Well, agreed. Yeah, and I was thinking back when I first started, I was always one of the smaller guys. I was probably 165, 170, and honestly now I look at it as, like, I'm sure you do as well. Look at it as like an advantage, because if you were always the bigger, stronger, even faster person, and then you go to train with someone that now is the bigger, stronger, faster person, you're like, oh, it's a big rude awakening, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I look at it as like when I was white belt, blue belt, it was a bit smaller, and so I was used to training with this bigger, stronger, more, definitely better technique than me. So and when you get to that point where you go to a school or a place that has bigger, stronger, faster people, you're like, oh, I've dealt with this. I've had that pressure. I've had that weight. I've felt that strength. So it's not foreign to you, and it's not something that just gonna take you by surprise. It's like, if people often, I see people complain about that, or like, oh, I'm the smallest person at my gym, and it is good to have some people your size to train with. I'm not saying it's not. However, it is going to be an advantage to you in the long run if you are training people bigger, stronger, and even, like I said, even faster or more athletic than you.
Yeah, it makes me think about, like, just the other day, this was Tuesday, so a couple days ago, when I was training, and it kind of goes hand in hand with, like, difficult things and fighting through difficult things. And I tell, like, my the students that I teach fundamentals to, I tell them all the time, like, you're gonna get in a position where it's gonna suck. Like, you're gonna be getting smashed or smothered, or you're gonna feel like you can't breathe. You're gonna feel like you're hyperventilating, and I have those quite often, and just because of the fact that I am a smaller person, and so just the other day, I had somebody that is more experienced, bigger, stronger, pretty high level, like brown belt, like outranks me and everything, that was just in mount and just had my arms, like both of my arms, like over my head for what felt like the full round, and my shoulders were burning. Like, it was like, it just felt so defeating. And I remember thinking to myself, you should just tap, right? This sucks. Like, there's no submission here, but your shoulders are tired, you can't breathe, you should just tap. Like, just get it over with, and this person will get off of you can reset. But I didn't, and I was like, you know what? No, there's not a submission here. You're not getting hurt. You're not getting injured. It just sucks. And I didn't. I remember, and all this is going on in the seconds in your head, when you slow down time in your head and you, like, think through things. And I said, don't tap. You're fine. And not even 2 seconds later, the timer went off. And I remember thinking to myself, I am, like, if I would have tapped, I would have been so mad at myself, because it's like, when you're faced with, like, those really hard decisions and those difficult things, like, you always have a choice. You have the hard way or the easy way. And I will tell you, 90% of people are going to choose the easy way, just because that's how our brains are wired, right? It's just the way that we are. We always look for the easy route. And so you may choose the easy way a couple times, but every once in a while, you have to choose the hard way, because that is what's gonna be, the indicator of whether you're a better person, a better athlete, a better coach, a better mentor, a better, mother, father, everything. So it's like, it's almost I want to say, like, almost like sadistic sometimes. Now you're like, oh, I get so much, like, dopamine from doing the hard things and accomplishing it. Now I'm, like, gonna seek the hard things. And there are people that are on that fringe, but don't be that person. But like, the more you do them, the more you feel accomplished with them, the more it's gonna kind of help you get over those hard things when they're not your choice.
Yeah, I think that, I don't think it's so much sadistic, but I do think once you've chosen those hard things and you take the easy way out, it's so dissatisfying, and it's so you just feel, because you just don't feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because you're like, I know at what level I can achieve or I can push myself to, and when you give up or you don't like put yourself in a scenario that you can get to that level, it's kind of underwhelming in a sense. Not saying you have to push yourself to the absolute brink every time. I'm not saying that. However, I'm saying, like, especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu, like, you know, doing hard training and like just per se, like if you just chose all the easy rounds, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't choose anybody that is difficult to go with, and it's gonna be a hard round. It's gonna be tough, and it's like, I mean, maybe some people do it at the end of the day, but for me, like, I can't feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I don't feel like, you know, I don't feel like patting myself in the back, or, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like when you go and do the hard things and the things you don't want to do, that's when you grow. You know, I often, like, you not, and maybe in a somewhat sadistic way, but I still often tell myself, like, in your head, you're like, all right, I want to do this workout, I want to do this training session, I want to go, go train there, and then in your head you have that, the other voice that tells you, oh, that's really hard though, and immediately when I would tell myself, oh, you don't want to do it, cool, now we're doing it, and I would use that as like a trick against myself, to say that, like, if there's immediately something that you don't want to do, it's because it's difficult.
Yep.
It's because it's hard, and it's because it's the thing that you don't want to have to do, right? So then I would tell myself, okay, now you don't have a choice. Now you got to do it, you know. Yeah. And again, not saying you should always do that, right? However, it does help push you outside of your comfort zone and make you grow, regardless if it's on the mats or off the mats. It's one of those things that's like, there's a reason you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not unachievable, right? But it's because it's difficult, and it's not something that you can just stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah. And that's like, and it kind of reminds me sometimes, like, if as you progress through your belts in jiu-jitsu, you know, let's say you're a white belt and, you know, you train with a bunch of, like, purple belts, brown belts, and black belts. And if you never train with somebody your own, like, you know, own rank, you may, like, just kind of leave being like, man, I suck at jiu-jitsu. Like, my jiu-jitsu is never going to be better. So look for the hard ones, but, like, don't always, like, you know, kind of understand and realize that there are different levels to things, right? I think Eves is the one that said, you know, whenever you're trying to get good at something, you know, you should always have 3 types of training partners. You know, training partners that you're better than, training partners that are equal to you and your rank and your size maybe, and training partners that are better than you. You know, and that kind of gives you a realistic, you know, expectation of, like, where your jiu-jitsu is, right? If I can do a move on, you know, a white belt, cool. Can I do that on somebody in my own rank? Can I do that on a purple belt? Cool, I can. Can I do that on a black belt? Like, and, you know, that kind of, like, helps you kind of fine tune the things that you need in your jiu-jitsu to really kind of, like, get you to that next level.
Yeah, I've always heard that saying, and the way I've heard it explained is, like, you know, the person that's not as good as you can be able to try new things on, you can be able to experiment, and you can still do that with the person that you're kind of equal to, but it's going to be more neck and neck, and you're going to go back and forth. And then having that person that's better than you, you know, in jiu-jitsu, they're going to kick your butt, right?
Yeah.
And not just kick your butt, because, you know, it's good to get your butt kicked every once in a while, but also do things to you or show you things that you don't know, or you had no idea was possible, right? So it's important to have those 3 different types of training partners, and put yourself in those different scenarios. Like we said, you shouldn't, you know, like, getting your ass kicked every single round. Sure, you can do it, and you're gonna get better eventually, but I don't necessarily think it's the best way. And then on the flip side of things, like, every round shouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
Because, right? Again, there's not gonna be any growth there. So you have to find, like, a good middle ground where you're still learning, still getting pushed, and still have the ability to work on new things and progress your game.
Yeah, but according to the YouTube trolls, I should never train with anybody that's not as good as I am or better than I am. But you should train with people that are, you know, not as good as you, and better than you, and that's important, because you also have to think about, like, new people come in, like, you want to help them grow, so that in turn, like, everybody grows, right? You don't want to take that day one white belt and be like, I'm never training with them because they suck and I've been here longer and they're not going to be a good round. Like, that's such a terrible mindset to have.
Yeah, that
when it comes
mindset.
to a team.
That mindset, or just the old school mindset of jiu-jitsu, of just destroying them and kicking their ass. But what I try to tell my students is like, it's like the saying, like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? And not saying this works out every time, but ideally you have someone that comes in, they're new, you help them over time, you help them, and they get to a point where now they're a good training partner for you. Obviously, sometimes that person may leave, sometimes they don't always stay. However, an ideal situation, I've had blue belts that have helped a white belt, and eventually that white belt was a blue belt too, right? And now that blue belt that helped him was maybe a 3-stripe blue belt, and that guy's a brand new blue belt. However, that brand new blue belt is still giving him good fits, in training and enrolling. So you have to invest into your training partners, into your team, and you have to see the again, back to like what we were saying earlier, see the long game, right? You see the long game and know that like eventually this person's going to get good and probably get good at different things that I'm good at, and that's going to help me in return me grow. So you just have to look at it like that. Like, yes, you're helping this person, but selfishly you're also helping yourself, right? You're going to help, but it's going to take a little longer, right, for them to get good and then to learn the techniques. However, over time, once they do, again, you're going to reap the benefits of it, right? Again, it's like we said, like putting that time, putting that work in over and over and over, and eventually you'll see the benefits from it.
Yep. All right. Got anything else to say?
No, I think that's about it. Hope everyone has a happy new year, and we look forward to 2023.
Yep. Bye.